Dr. Sarah Chen floated through the airlock of the diplomatic station with careful movements. Her white lab coat drifted behind her in the low gravity. She carried a simple briefcase containing humanity's hopes for peaceful contact with the Zethrak Empire. The station was huge and cold. Metal walls stretched in all directions, covered with symbols from dozens of different alien races. Sarah had studied most of these languages during her 20 years as Earth's top xenobiologist. Today, she would use that knowledge to speak for all of humanity. Captain Williams, her security escort, stayed close behind her. His hand rested near his sidearm, but Sarah had insisted that weapons remain holstered. This was supposed to be a peaceful meeting. The first real chance for humans to join the galactic community. Dr. Chen, Williams whispered. Are you sure about this? The intelligence reports say these Zethrak are not friendly. Sarah nodded but kept walking. Every species deserves a chance, Captain. Maybe they just need to understand us better. The main conference room was enormous. A circular table sat in the center, surrounded by floating chairs designed for different alien body types. Representatives from 17 different species were already seated. Sarah recognized most of them from her studies. The insect-like Zerani, the crystalline Veltar, the gas-breathing Nethys. All of them looked nervous. Their body language spoke of fear, even across species barriers. Sarah wondered why. Commander Vextar entered the room like a storm. He was massive, even for a Zethrak. His scaled hide was dark purple, and his forearms ended in claws that could tear through steel. Two smaller Zethrak soldiers followed him, their weapons visible and ready. So, Vextar said in perfect English, his voice like grinding stone, "These are the humans we have heard about." Sarah stood and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect she had learned from studying Zethrak culture. Commander Vexistar, I am Dr. Sarah Chen. I represent the United Earth government. We are honored to meet with the Zethrak Empire. Vextar laughed. The sound made several of the other aliens flinch. Honored? You should be terrified, little mammal. Sarah kept her voice calm. We come in peace, seeking friendship and trade between our peoples. Peace? Vextar circled the table slowly, his claws clicking on the metal floor. Your species barely understands fire, and you speak of peace with the Zethrak Empire. Sarah pulled out her briefcase and activated a holographic display. Images of human cities appeared in the air. Gleaming towers, space elevators reaching toward the stars, massive ships traveling between planets. Humanity has achieved much in recent centuries, Sarah said. We have eliminated poverty and war on our homeworld. We have colonies on 47 planets. Our scientists have unlocked the secrets of faster-than-light travel and quantum computing. Vextar stopped walking and stared at the images. For a moment, something like surprise crossed his alien features. Then his expression hardened again. Tricks, he said. Any species can build tall buildings. The Zethrak Empire has conquered 17 species, each one claiming to be advanced. Each one now serves us faithfully. The other aliens around the table shifted uncomfortably. Sarah noticed how they looked down when Vextar spoke, how their shoulders slumped. These were not allies of the Zethrak. They were slaves. We do not wish to conquer or be conquered, Sarah said. We believe that different species can work together for mutual benefit. Mutual benefit? Vextar's four eyes focused on her like laser beams. What could a primitive species like yours possibly offer the mighty Zethrak? Sarah activated another display. This one showed human medical advances. Treatments for diseases that affected multiple species. Technologies that could extend life across different biologies. Our doctors have developed treatments for the Kalan plague that devastated the Outer Rim colonies 50 years ago. Sarah explained. We can share this knowledge freely. One of the Zerani delegates, an insect creature with compound eyes, leaned forward with interest. The plague treatment? Our people still suffer from that disease. Vextar slammed his fist on the table. The metal dented under the impact. The Zerani will speak only when given permission. The Zerani immediately cowered back in its chair. Sarah saw the fear in its alien eyes and felt anger rising in her chest. She forced herself to stay calm. Commander, Sarah said carefully. Perhaps we could discuss how cooperation might benefit everyone here. Cooperation? Vextar walked closer to her chair. You misunderstand the situation, human. This is not a negotiation between equals. This is your chance to surrender peacefully before we take your worlds by force. Captain Williams stepped forward, his hand moving toward his weapon. Sarah held up a hand to stop him. We are not here to surrender, Sarah said. We are here to offer friendship. Vextar leaned down until his face was inches from hers. His breath smelled like sulfur and decay. Your species is weak. Your bodies are fragile. Your weapons are primitive. You have no claws, no natural armor, no powerful limbs. You are prey animals pretending to be predators. Sarah met his gaze without flinching. Physical strength is not the only kind of power, Commander. Is that so? Vextar straightened up and activated a device on his belt. A holographic display showed images of Zethrak warships, massive vessels bristling with weapons. Our fleet numbers in the millions. Our soldiers have never known defeat. Every species that has faced us has fallen within days. The other aliens around the table looked even more frightened now. Sarah could see the hopelessness in their faces. They had lived under Zethrak rule for so long that they had forgotten what freedom looked like. Numbers are not everything, Sarah said. We have learned much about conflict resolution and peaceful coexistence. Vextar laughed again. Peace is a luxury that only the strong can afford. The weak must serve or die. Sarah activated one more display from her briefcase. This one showed human children playing in parks, artists creating beautiful sculptures, scientists working together in laboratories, images of humanity at its best. This is what we offer, Sarah said. Not conquest or domination, but growth and learning together. Vextar stared at the images for a long moment. Something flickered across his face. Confusion, perhaps even curiosity. Then his expression turned cold again. Pretty pictures, he said, but they change nothing. The Zethrak Empire does not need friends. We take what we want. And what do you want from humanity? Sarah asked. Vextar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Your worlds. Your resources. Your people as workers in our factories and soldiers in our armies. And if we refuse, then you will suffer the same fate as every other species that has challenged us. He gestured toward the other aliens. Ask them how resistance worked out for their people. Sarah looked around the table. Every face showed the same expression. Defeat, resignation, hopelessness. These beings had once been proud and free. Now they were broken, serving masters who saw them as nothing more than tools. I understand, Sarah said quietly. But I need you to understand something too, Commander. Humanity values every life. We believe that every thinking being deserves freedom and dignity. Noble words from a species about to become extinct, Vextar said. Or slaves, if you choose wisely. Sarah closed her briefcase and stood up. Then I suppose we have nothing more to discuss. Oh, but we do, Vextar said, his smile growing wider. The meeting has only just begun. Sarah remained standing, her briefcase in her hand. She looked around the room one more time, meeting the eyes of each alien representative. They all looked away quickly, too afraid to hold her gaze. Commander Vextar, Sarah said, if you will not consider peaceful cooperation, then I must return to my ship and report to my government. Sit down, Vextar commanded. I prefer to stand. Thank you. Vextar's four eyes narrowed. That was not a request, human. Captain Williams moved closer to Sarah. His hand was now resting on his weapon. The two Zethrak soldiers behind Vextar shifted their positions, ready for action. Sarah held up her hand again to stop Williams. Captain, please. Let me handle this, Dr. Chen, Williams whispered. We should leave now. Sarah shook her head. Not yet. I need to try one more time. She looked directly at Vextar. Commander, I know your species values strength above all else. But there are different kinds of strength. The strength to show mercy. The strength to choose peace over war. The strength to build instead of destroy. Vextar's expression darkened. You dare lecture me about strength? You pathetic little creature? I am trying to help you understand. Understand, Vextar roared. I understand perfectly. Your species is weak and you use pretty words to hide that weakness. The other aliens around the table pressed themselves back in their chairs. Sarah could feel their terror, but she refused to show fear. Humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have destroyed other species. Sarah said calmly, We are stronger than you think. Prove it, Vextar said. Sarah blinked. I'm sorry? Prove your strength. Right here, right now. Vextar pulled a device from his belt. It was about the size of a human fist, made of dark metal with glowing red crystals embedded in its surface. The other aliens around the table gasped when they saw it. No, whispered the Zerani delegate, not the neural disruptor. Sarah did not know what a neural disruptor was, but the terror in the alien's voice told her everything she needed to know. Commander, Sarah said, keeping her voice steady. What is that device? This, Vextar said, holding up the device, is how we test the strength of inferior species. Captain Williams drew his weapon. Dr. Chen, we're leaving now. Captain Williams, Sarah said firmly. Stand down. That's an order. Ma'am, I can't. That's an order, Captain. We are here under diplomatic immunity. If we attack first, we become the aggressors. Williams reluctantly lowered his weapon, but he did not holster it. Vextar laughed. Diplomatic immunity. How quaint. Tell me, human, do you know what a neural disruptor does? Sarah met his gaze. I assume it causes pain. Oh, much more than that, Vextar said. It stimulates every pain receptor in your nervous system simultaneously. The agony is beyond anything your primitive brain can imagine, but it does not cause permanent damage. Not at first. The Veltar delegate, a crystalline being who had not spoken during the entire meeting, suddenly made a high-pitched sound. Sarah realized it was crying. The beauty of this device, Vextar continued, is that it keeps you conscious throughout the entire experience. You feel every second of the torture, but you cannot pass out. You cannot escape into unconsciousness. Sarah felt her heart racing, but she kept her voice calm. And you want to use this device on me? I want to demonstrate the difference between real strength and human weakness, Vextar said. If you are truly strong, you will endure the pain without begging for mercy. And if I refuse, then you prove that humans are cowards as well as weak. Sarah looked around the room again. Every alien was watching her now. She could see the hope in some of their eyes, the desperate wish that someone might finally stand up to the Zethrak. She could also see the fear, the certainty that she would break just like all the others. How long? Sarah asked. Until you beg me to stop, Vexatar said with a cruel smile. Sarah set down her briefcase and clasped her hands behind her back. Very well, Commander. But I want everyone in this room to witness what happens here today. Captain Williams stepped forward. Dr. Chen, you can't do this. Sarah turned to face him. Captain, you have your orders. Do not interfere no matter what happens. Ma'am, that's a direct order from a superior officer, Captain Williams. Do you understand? Williams' face was pale, but he nodded. Yes, ma'am. Sarah faced Vextar again. I'm ready, Commander. Vextar activated the device. The red crystals began to glow brighter. The pain hit Sarah like a lightning bolt made of fire. Every nerve in her body screamed at once. Her muscles seized and she fell to her knees. The agony was beyond anything she had ever imagined possible, but she did not scream. Sarah had trained her mind for years in meditation and mental discipline. She had studied the techniques used by ancient monks and modern soldiers to endure extreme pain. Now she used every trick she had learned. She focused on her breathing, in and out, in and out. She imagined the pain as a wave washing over her, terrible but temporary. She thought about her daughter back on Earth, about the future she wanted to build for humanity. Seconds passed like hours. The pain continued, wave after wave of pure agony. Sarah's body shook, but she remained on her knees. She did not fall. She did not beg. Vextar's smile faded. Interesting. Most species break within 30 seconds. The torture continued. Sarah's vision blurred, but she forced herself to stay conscious. She could hear Captain Williams breathing heavily behind her. She could feel the shocked silence of the other aliens around the table. 1 minute passed, then 2. Sarah began to recite poetry in her mind, words from her childhood. Anything to give her brain something to focus on besides the pain. The neural disruptor was designed to break the will, but Sarah had something the Zethrak did not. Understand, hope, 3 minutes, 4, 5 Vextars. Expression had changed from cruel amusement to confusion to something that might have been concern. Remarkable pain tolerance, he said. But everyone breaks eventually. Sarah managed to lift her head and look at him. Her face was covered in sweat and her whole body trembled, but her eyes were still defiant. Is that the best you can do? She whispered. Vextar snarled and increased the power on the device. The new wave of pain was indescribable. Sarah's back arched, and for a moment she thought her spine might snap. But still she did not scream. Still she did not beg. The other aliens around the table were staring in amazement. The Zerani delegate had risen from its chair. The Veltar was making musical sounds that might have been songs of hope. 10 minutes passed. 12. 14. Sarah's body was reaching its limits. Her heart was racing dangerously fast. Her breathing was shallow and rapid, but her mind remained focused on one thought. She would not give Vextar the satisfaction of breaking her. You don't understand, Sarah gasped between waves of pain. What you've just done. Vextar leaned closer. What did you say? Sarah lifted her head one more time. Her eyes met his, and for just a moment she smiled. You don't understand what you've just done. Then her heart, pushed beyond its limits by the sustained torture, finally gave out. Sarah Chen collapsed to the floor, her eyes still open, still defiant, even in death. The room fell silent except for the humming of the neural disruptor. Vextar stared down at her body in shock. She's dead, Captain Williams said quietly. Vextar deactivated the device. That was not supposed to happen. Williams knelt beside Sarah's body and checked for a pulse. There was none. Dr. Sarah Chen, humanity's greatest diplomat and xenobiologist, was dead. 14 minutes, whispered the Zerani delegate. She lasted 14 minutes and never begged. Vextar looked around the room. Every alien was staring at him with expressions he had never seen before. Not fear or submission, but something else, something that made him uncomfortable. Clean this up, he told his soldiers. The humans can take the body when they leave. But as he walked toward the door, Vextar could not shake the feeling that something important had just happened. Something that would change everything. Captain Williams knelt beside Sarah's body, his hands shaking as he closed her eyes. Around the conference table, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence. None of them had ever seen anyone endure the neural disruptor for so long. Get the humans off my station, Vextar commanded his soldiers. Immediately, Williams carefully lifted Sarah's body. She felt so light in his arms, so fragile. It was hard to believe that this small woman had just done something that would be remembered across the galaxy. You will regret this, Williams said quietly to Vextar. Vextar laughed, but the sound was forced. Your diplomat is dead, human. Your species has seen what happens when you challenge the Zethrak Empire. Take that message back to your leaders. Williams did not reply. He carried Sarah toward the airlock, followed by the rest of the human delegation. As they left, Williams noticed something he had missed before. Every alien in the room was watching them go, and their faces showed something new. Something that looked like respect. The human shuttle detached from the station and began its journey back to the fleet. Williams placed Sarah's body in the medical bay, then went to the communication station. This is Shuttle 7 calling UES Endeavor, he said into the microphone. Priority Alpha message for Admiral Chen. A few seconds passed before Admiral Maria Chen's voice crackled through the speakers. This is Admiral Chen. Report, Captain. Williams took a deep breath. Ma'am, I regret to inform you that Dr. Sarah Chen is dead. Silence filled the communication channel for several long seconds. Repeat that. Captain, Admiral Chen said, her voice deadly quiet. Dr. Chen was killed during the diplomatic meeting, ma'am. The Zethrak commander used a torture device on her. She died rather than surrender. More silence. When Admiral Chen spoke again, her voice was like ice. How? Williams explained what had happened in the conference room. He described the neural disruptor, the 14 minutes of torture, and Sarah's final words. When he finished, the communication channel was quiet for almost a full minute. Captain Williams, Admiral Chen finally said, you and your team are to proceed directly to the Endeavor. Do not stop. Do not communicate with anyone else. Is that understood? Yes, ma'am. And Captain? Make sure that every detail of what happened is recorded and transmitted to Earth immediately. Back on the diplomatic station, Vextar was addressing the assembled alien representatives. He stood where Sarah had died as if to emphasize his victory. Let this be a lesson to all of you, he said. This is what happens when inferior species challenge the Zethrak Empire. The humans thought they were special, but their diplomat died just like anyone else. The Zerani delegate raised one of its insect-like arms. Commander, may I speak? What? The human? She endured the neural disruptor for 14 minutes. That is unprecedented. Vextar's eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting that proves something? I am merely observing that no member of any species has ever lasted more than 3 minutes, the Zerani said carefully. My own people break within seconds. The human got lucky, Vextar said. Some individuals have higher pain tolerance than others. But even as he said it, Vextar knew it was not true. He had used the neural disruptor on hundreds of prisoners over the years. He had never seen anything like what Sarah Chen had done. The Veltar delegate spoke next, its crystalline body chiming like musical notes. The human said something before she died. "You don't understand what you've just done." What did she mean? The desperate words of a dying animal, Vextar said. Nothing more. But privately, Vextar was wondering the same thing. What had Sarah Chen meant by those words? 37 minutes after Sarah's death, the answer came. Every communication system on the diplomatic station activated simultaneously. Emergency lights began flashing. Warning sirens wailed through the corridors. And then a voice spoke in perfect galactic standard. "Attention all beings aboard Diplomatic Station Harmony. This is an automated message from the United Earth Defense Network. Dr. Sarah Chen's biometric flatline has been detected. Implementing Protocol Omega-7. All human assets are now weapons-free. Repeat, all human assets are now weapons-free." Vextar stared at the nearest communication panel in confusion. What is Protocol Omega-7? His question was answered by his own sensors officer, who burst into the conference room with terror in his eyes. "Commander," the officer gasped. "You need to see this immediately." Vextar followed the officer to the station's main sensor array. What he saw there made his blood run cold. The sensor screen showed empty space around the station. At least it had been empty 37 minutes ago. Now ships were appearing everywhere. Human ships. They materialized out of nothing, dropping their cloaking devices all at once. Cargo vessels that suddenly sprouted weapon arrays. Research stations that revealed themselves to be heavily armed fortresses. Exploration ships that transformed before Vextar's eyes into massive battlecruisers. "How many?" Vextar whispered. The sensors officer's hands shook as he worked the controls. 847 ships, Commander. All human. All armed. That's impossible. Our intelligence report said the humans only had a few dozen ships in this sector. The intelligence reports were wrong, sir. Vextar watched in growing horror as more ships appeared. These were not the crude vessels he expected from a primitive species. They were sleek, advanced, and clearly designed for war. "Where did they come from?" he demanded. "Everywhere, sir. They were hiding in asteroid fields behind moons in the shadows of gas giants. They were disguised as civilian vessels and research platforms. Some of them were sitting right next to our own ships, and we never detected them." The communication systems activated again. This time the voice was different. Human, but older, and filled with cold fury. "This is Admiral Maria Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet. I am the sister of Dr. Sarah Chen, who was murdered on your station 37 minutes ago. I am ordering the immediate surrender of Commander Vexitar for trial under galactic law." Vexitar found his voice. "This is Commander Vextar. Your diplomat died during a legal demonstration of Zethrak authority. We have done nothing wrong." "You tortured an unarmed diplomat to death," Admiral Chen replied. "That is a war crime under any law. Surrender now and no one else needs to die." Vextar looked at his sensor readings again. 847 human ships surrounded the station. But he was Zethrak. He did not surrender to anyone. "The Zethrak Empire does not yield to threats from inferior species," he broadcast. "Leave now or we will destroy you all." Admiral Chen's response was immediate. "You have 10 seconds to change your mind. You cannot threaten us. We have the most powerful fleet in the galaxy." 5 seconds, Vextar activated the station's weapons and called for his own fleet to attack. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. Their weapons fired with precision that seemed impossible. They targeted engine systems, weapons arrays, and life support, disabling Zethrak ships without destroying them. The Zethrak fleet, numbering over 200 vessels, was reduced to floating scrap metal in less than 5 minutes. Not a single human ship was even damaged. Vextar stared at his sensor screen in disbelief. His mighty fleet, the terror of 17 species, had been swept aside like debris in a solar wind. "Impossible," he whispered. The communication system crackled to life one more time. "Commander Vextar," Admiral Chen said, "you are now seeing what my sister meant when she said you didn't understand what you had done. Humanity is not the weak species you believed us to be. We have been holding back, showing restraint, trying to be the peaceful neighbors we hope to be." Vextar said nothing. He could not speak. "You killed the one person who believed that even the Zethrak could learn to be better," Admiral Chen continued. "You murdered hope itself, and now you will face the consequences." Transport beams began materializing human soldiers throughout the station. They moved with military precision, securing key areas and rounding up Zethrak personnel. Within minutes, Commander Vextar found himself surrounded by human Marines in advanced armor. Their weapons were aimed at his head. "Commander Vextar," said the lead Marine, "you are under arrest for the murder of Dr. Sarah Chen and crimes against sentient beings." As they placed restraints on his forearms, Vextar finally understood what Sarah Chen had meant with her final words. He had not killed a weak diplomat. He had murdered the sister of one of humanity's most powerful military commanders. He had not demonstrated Zethrak's superiority. He had revealed that humanity had been hiding their true strength all along. And now, 37 minutes too late, he was beginning to realize just how badly he had miscalculated. The human Marines led Commander Vextar through the corridors of his own station. Everywhere he looked, he saw human soldiers taking control with efficient, practiced movements. They were not the clumsy primitives he had expected. These were professional warriors who knew exactly what they were doing. "How?" Vextar asked the Marine commander walking beside him. "How did your fleet appear so quickly?" The Marine, a woman with steel-gray eyes and scars on her face, glanced at him. "We were already here, Commander. We've been here for weeks. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected you." "Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect," the Marine said. "Did you really think that a species capable of faster-than-light travel couldn't figure out how to hide a few ships?" They reached the main hangar bay where a human shuttle was waiting. As they walked toward it, Vextar saw something that made him stop in shock. The other alien representatives from the diplomatic meeting were there, but they were not prisoners. They were standing freely, talking with human officers. The Zerani delegate was examining human medical equipment with obvious fascination. The Veltar was communicating with human linguists, its crystalline body chiming with what sounded like excitement. "What is this?" Vextar demanded. "These beings are no longer your slaves," the Marine commander said. "They are free to choose their own path. You cannot do this. The Galactic Conquest Treaty gives the Zethric Empire legal authority over these species." The Marine laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. The Galactic Conquest Treaty was signed under threat of force. It has no legal standing under actual galactic law. These beings are free citizens now under human protection. As they boarded the shuttle, Vextar heard the Zerani delegate speaking to a human doctor. "The plague treatments you mentioned," the insect-like being was saying, "could you really share them with my people?" "Of course," the human doctor replied. "Medical knowledge belongs to everyone. We'll have the first shipments ready within a week." Vextar could not believe what he was hearing. The humans were giving away valuable technology for free. It made no sense from a military perspective. The shuttle launched from the station and flew toward the massive human fleet surrounding them. Vextar had never seen ships like these before. They were clearly advanced far beyond anything in Zethrak technology, but they were designed differently than he expected. "Your ships," he said to the Marine commander. "They have medical bays larger than weapon systems." "Most of our ships are designed for exploration and rescue operations," she replied. "We converted them for military use when we received Dr. Chen's death signal." "Converted them? In 37 minutes?" "Every human vessel carries modular military equipment as standard procedure. We learned long ago that peace is only possible when you're prepared for war." The shuttle docked with the largest ship in the fleet, a massive vessel that dwarfed even Zethrak dreadnoughts. As they walked through its corridors, Vextar was amazed by what he saw. The ship was clearly designed for military purposes, but it was also filled with laboratories, medical facilities, and cultural centers. Children's drawings hung on the walls next to tactical displays. A hydroponics bay growing food sat next to an armory. "This is not a warship," Vextar said. "Every human ship is a warship when it needs to be," the Marine commander replied. "But we prefer them to be homes, schools, and research centers." They reached a conference room where Admiral Maria Chen was waiting. She looked almost exactly like her sister Sarah, but her eyes held a coldness that Sarah's never had. "Sit down, Commander Vextar," Admiral Chen said. Vextar remained standing. "I demand to speak with the Zethric High Command. The Zethric High Command is currently dealing with rebellions on 14 different worlds," Admiral Chen said calmly. "It seems that news of what you did to my sister has spread throughout your empire." "Rebellions? The species you conquered are fighting for their freedom, and they're winning, with human support." Admiral Chen activated a holographic display that showed star maps across Zethric space. Red indicators marked battle zones, and Vexitar was horrified to see how many there were. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Our military is the strongest in the galaxy." "Your military was strong when it only faced one species at a time," Admiral Chen said. "But you made a critical error, Commander. You assumed that strength could only come from brutality." The display changed to show human ships arriving at various worlds throughout Zethrak space. But these ships were not attacking Zethrak colonies. They were landing on worlds where rebellions were happening, offering aid to the rebels. "We are not conquering your empire, Commander," Admiral Chen continued. "We are liberating it. Every species that wants freedom will get it. Every world that chooses independence will be protected." "And what about the Zethrak?" Vexter asked. "That depends on the Zethrak," Admiral Chen said. "Any of your people who choose to live peacefully will be welcome in the new galactic community. Those who continue to choose violence will be stopped." Vextar looked at the star map again. The red indicators were spreading as he watched. His empire was falling apart in real time. "How long have you been planning this?" he asked. "We weren't," Admiral Chen said. "Humanity had no intention of interfering in galactic politics. We came to that station hoping to make friends, to find our place in the broader community of intelligent species." She stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "My sister believed that even the Zethrak could change," Admiral Chen continued. "She thought that if we showed you our achievements, our culture, our values, you might choose cooperation over conquest." "Dr. Chen was naive," Vextar said. Admiral Chen turned to face him, and her eyes blazed with fury. "My sister was hopeful, and you killed hope itself when you murdered her." The holographic display changed again, showing the moment of Sarah's death. Vextar watched himself activate the neural disruptor, watched Sarah endure 14 minutes of agony without breaking. "Every being in the galaxy has now seen this recording," Admiral Chen said. "They have seen what the Zethrak Empire does to those who offer friendship. They have also seen what true strength looks like." "She was weak," Vextar protested. "She died." "She chose to die rather than submit to you," Admiral Chen said. "She chose to endure torture rather than abandon her principles. And in doing so, she inspired 17 different species to fight for their freedom." The display showed crowds of aliens on dozens of different worlds, all of them rising up against their Zethrak overlords. The recording showed them chanting Sarah's name, holding up images of her final moments. "You created a martyr, Commander," Admiral Chen said. "You gave the galaxy a symbol of resistance that will never be forgotten." Vextar sank into his chair. His empire was collapsing, his fleet was destroyed, and he was a prisoner. All because he had wanted to prove that humans were weak. "What will happen to me?" he asked. "You will stand trial for war crimes," Admiral Chen said. "The evidence is clear and the verdict is certain, but the sentence will be decided by representatives from all the species you have oppressed. They will demand my death. Perhaps. Or perhaps they will choose mercy the way my sister would have." Admiral Chen walked back to the viewport and looked out at the stars again. "You know what the strangest part is, Commander?" she said. "If you had simply treated my sister with respect, if you had listened to her offer of friendship, humanity would have been content to remain a minor player in galactic affairs. We would have shared our medical technology, our cultural achievements, our scientific discoveries. We would have been good neighbors." She turned back to face him one last time. "Instead, you chose to show us that the galaxy needed protection from species like yours. So now that's exactly what we're going to provide." As if to emphasize her point, the ship's communication system activated with a message from Human Fleet Command. "Admiral Chen, this is Captain Rodriguez aboard the UES Guardian. We have just received surrender requests from Zethrak commanders on 12 different worlds. They are requesting human mediation to negotiate peaceful transitions of power." Admiral Chen smiled, but it was a sad expression. "You see, Commander? Even your own people are choosing peace over war. My sister would have been proud." Vextar stared out the viewport at the human fleet surrounding them. Each ship represented a choice. The choice to build instead of destroy. The choice to heal instead of hurt. The choice to protect instead of conquer. He was beginning to understand that humanity's true strength had never been their technology or their numbers. It was their ability to make those choices again and again, even when it would be easier to choose violence. And now, because he had made the wrong choice 37 minutes ago, The entire galaxy was about to discover what happened when humanity finally chose to fight. 3 months had passed since the death of Dr. Sarah Chen. Commander Vexitar sat in his cell aboard the human prison ship, staring out through the transparent aluminum window at the stars beyond. The cell was comfortable by human standards, with a bed, desk, and even books to read. It was far better treatment than any Zethrak prison would have provided. Today was the day of his trial. The trial was being held on New Geneva Station, a massive human construction that had been built in just 2 months to serve as a neutral meeting ground for all the liberated species. Vexter had watched its construction through his window, amazed at the speed and efficiency with which the humans worked. The courtroom was enormous, designed to accommodate representatives from dozens of different species. Vextar was escorted to the defendant's chair by human guards who treated him with professional courtesy rather than hatred. He found this more unsettling than cruelty would have been. The judges' panel included representatives from every species that had been under Zethrak rule. The chief judge was an elderly Zarani, whose compound eyes fixed on Vextar with undisguised disgust. "The court will come to order," the Zarani judge announced in Galactic Standard. "We are here to try Commander Vextar of the former Zethrak Empire on charges of war crimes, torture, and murder." Vextar looked around the courtroom. The gallery was filled with beings from across the galaxy, all of them watching him with various expressions of anger, curiosity, and hatred. But what struck him most was their freedom to be here. Under Zethrak rule, none of these beings would have dared to judge a Zethrak commander. "How does the defendant plead?" the judge asked. Vextar's lawyer, a human woman who had volunteered to represent him, stood up. "Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty by reason of following the legal customs of his species." Murmurs of anger rippled through the gallery. The judge struck his gavel for silence. "The court recognizes that different species have different customs," the judge said. "However, the torture and murder of diplomats under a flag of truce is considered a war crime under universal galactic law, regardless of local customs." The prosecutor, a Veltar whose crystalline body chimed with each word, began presenting the evidence. The recording of Sarah's torture and death was played for the court. Even 3 months later, Vextar found it difficult to watch. "The defendant used a neural disruptor on Dr. Sarah Chen for 14 minutes, the prosecutor chimed. "This device is specifically designed to cause maximum pain. Without allowing the victim to lose consciousness, Dr. Chen endured this torture without begging for mercy and died rather than submit to her tormentor." Witness. After witness took the stand, the alien representatives who had been present at the diplomatic meeting testified about what they had seen. Captain Williams described the events leading up to Sarah's death. Each testimony painted the same picture of deliberate cruelty. When it came time for Vextar to speak in his own defense, he stood slowly and looked around the courtroom. "I am Zethrak," he said simply. "For 10,000 years my people have conquered and ruled through strength. It is our nature. It is our way. And do you believe that gives you the right to torture innocent beings?" the judge asked. Vextar was quiet for a long moment. 3 months of imprisonment had given him time to think, time to reflect on his actions and their consequences. "I believed that strength was the only truth in the universe," he said finally. "I believed that the weak existed only to serve the strong. I believed that Dr. Chen's offer of friendship was a sign of weakness that should be punished. And now?" the prosecutor chimed. Vexitar looked at the gallery, at all the free beings watching him. "Now I see that I was wrong. The humans showed me what true strength looks like. They could have destroyed my entire species in revenge for Dr. Chen's death. Instead, they chose to liberate the oppressed and offer mercy to the oppressors." He turned to face a section of the gallery where human observers sat. Admiral Chen was among them, watching him with cold eyes. "I do not ask for forgiveness," Vextar continued. "I know that what I did was evil. I tortured and killed an innocent being who came to me in peace. But I want the court to know that Dr. Chen's death was not meaningless." "Explain," the judge said. "Her sacrifice showed the galaxy what humanity truly is," Vextar said. "She died rather than abandon her principles. She endured agony that would have broken any of my soldiers, and in doing so, she proved that there is a strength greater than the power to destroy, the strength to protect, to heal, to hope." The courtroom was completely silent now. Even the prosecutors seemed surprised by Vextar's words. The human fleet that surrounded my station could have annihilated us in seconds, Vextar continued. Instead, they disabled our weapons and captured us alive. They could have executed me immediately. Instead, they gave me a fair trial with legal representation. He looked directly at Admiral Chen. The humans could have chosen to become the new galactic tyrants. Instead, they are helping every species build their own free governments. They are sharing their technology and knowledge freely. They are acting exactly as Dr. Chen said they would. Vextar sat back down. I am guilty of all charges. I deserve whatever punishment this court decides. But I want the galaxy to remember that Dr. Chen's death was not the end of something. It was the beginning of a new age. The court recessed for deliberation. When the judges returned 6 hours later, the Zerani chief judge looked exhausted. This court finds Commander Vexitar guilty on all charges, the judge announced. The evidence is overwhelming and the defendant has confessed to his crimes. The gallery erupted in cheers. But the judge called for silence. However, the judge continued, the question of sentence has proven more difficult to decide. The judge looked at a data pad in front of him. We have received statements from the families of every being who died under Zethrak rule. Many call for the defendant's execution. They want revenge for their suffering. Vexitar closed his eyes, expecting to hear his death sentence. But we have also received a statement from the family of Dr. Sarah Chen, the judge continued. Admiral Chen has asked this court to consider that her sister died believing that even the Zethrak could learn to be better. She has requested that we honor that belief. Vextar opened his eyes in surprise. Admiral Chen was standing in the gallery, her face unreadable. Therefore, the judge said, this court sentences Commander Vextar to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 50 years of demonstrated rehabilitation. He will spend his sentence working to undo the damage his empire has caused, helping to rebuild the worlds that were destroyed and heal the beings that were harmed. The gallery erupted again, this time with mixed reactions. Some beings shouted for blood while others seemed satisfied with the sentence. As Vextar was led away, Admiral Chen approached him. Why? He asked her. Why show mercy to your sister's killer? Admiral Chen looked at him for a long moment. Because my sister believed that everyone deserves a chance to choose a better path. Even you. She turned to leave, then paused. Don't waste the gift she gave you, Commander. Make your life count for something. Years passed. Vextar worked in the reconstruction efforts, helping to design new cities on worlds that the Zethrak had strip-mined. He learned about the cultures his empire had tried to destroy. He met survivors of Zethrak oppression, and slowly began to understand the magnitude of the suffering he had caused. On the 10th anniversary of Sarah Chen's death, a memorial was unveiled on New Geneva Station. It showed a simple statue of a human woman standing with her hands clasped behind her back, facing forward with dignity and determination. At the base of the statue were carved these words: She died believing that even our enemies could learn to be better. Her faith in the possibility of redemption became the foundation of galactic peace. Vexitar attended the ceremony along with thousands of beings from across the galaxy. As he watched children from dozens of species playing together in the shadow of the memorial, he finally understood what Sarah Chen had died for. She had not died to prove human strength. She had died to plant a seed of hope that would grow into a better future for everyone. And 37 minutes after her death, when the human fleet appeared to avenge her, they had chosen to water that seed with mercy rather than blood. The galaxy would never forget Dr. Sarah Chen. But more importantly, it would never forget the lesson her death had taught. That true strength comes not from the power to destroy your enemies, but from the wisdom to turn them into friends. Standing before her memorial, watching former enemies work together to build a better future, Vextar finally understood what she had meant with her final words. He had not understood what he was doing when he killed her. He had thought he was eliminating a weak opponent. Instead, he had created a martyr whose memory would inspire peace and cooperation for generations to come. The humans had made him understand, and he had spent the rest of his life trying to prove that Sarah Chen's faith in redemption had not been misplaced, even for someone like him.